I chose the profile picture in the upper right corner because anarchy was a major theme in the 1980s punk movement. It served as a symbol for mostly hardcore punk. It gained its name as anarcho-punk and was formed in the UK but was quickly brought overseas to the US. This subculture served as a way to express political beliefs. Anarcho-punk was a strain of punk rock concerned with abolishing the state and capitalism.
So starting off with the first post, this is a picture of me actually taken before the creative project. It's just me in my garage playing guitar. And I thought it went really well with the aesthetic, so I decided to add it. This one is me annoying my neighbors.
This post is of a friend of mine wearing a Social Distortion band sweater. This band is very well known during the 1980s because the younger crowd could really relate to it. I captioned it Social Distortion's Story of My Life because their biggest hit was actually called Story of My Life. Some of you might remember it from Guitar Hero, but it served as a representation of the youth's struggles with the social conforming and their disagreements with the school system. This is a photo of a friend of mine from 2009, but I figured it would serve as a good representation of the 1980s punk movement, as Nirvana was formed in 1987. Nirvana originated as a post-punk band, which helped pave the way for the ever-popular 90s grunge music. This photo was taken with a film camera, but I added some extra effects to add to the distortion of the pixels.
So for this one, I actually had the most fun making it because I got to play around with Photoshop a lot. As you can tell, I layered in a lot of pictures, and I included an icon of the Misfits, which was a really popular punk band during the time, and also included the quote, "Punk's not dead." That was a really popular thing to say during the time because punk actually originated in the 1970s and was very alive during the time, and so some people may have felt like it was kind of beginning to be forgotten, but the punks in the 1980s wanted to reiterate that punk is definitely not dead. Also got to play around a lot with Photoshop in this picture. As you can tell, I layered a couple of pictures onto this one to kind of give that extra grainy effect. And I wanted to most accurately represent the 1980s punk look the best that I could, so I added very dark eye makeup, lots of wings, thin and dark eyebrows, as well as the popular beauty mark and black lipstick.
This post is actually a picture that was taken by Zena in downtown Santa Rosa during a Black Lives Matter protest. I photoshopped it in a way that would resemble the 1980s punk aesthetic. I made sure to censor out identities for safety. Protests and activism were key ways that punks of the 1980s expressed their culture. I edited in the words, "Government is violence," from a real sign used in a protest during the punk movement to directly represent one of their prominent beliefs.
So the first photo that I took was on a borrowed Minolta Maxim 7000 camera. I originally decided to use this camera because after some research, I found this was one of the more popular cameras that was used within the 80s. I found it to be difficult to work with because it was very heavy, but the photo quality came out really cool because of the texture and the light exposure. The second photo I took was shot on a Nikon FA film camera. Like I said earlier, this was also a popular camera to use in the 1980s. This was the first film camera that offered multi-segmented light metering. Something I love about this photo was that the cat was sitting on top of a pair of vintage Levi jeans, something Zena mentioned that was fashionable within that time period. The third photo was taken on a Pentax P3 film camera. This camera was designed to be easy to use, which was perfect for beginner photographers. It features auto settings with a timer, and it also allows for multi-lens use because of its compatibility with other lenses. I took this picture while driving through Long Beach at sunset, and I really liked how this camera picked up on the saturation of the sunset. The last photo was taken on an average disposable film camera. This was by far the most popular because of its durability and easy-to-use setup. It comes already preloaded with film and can be thrown away after one has taken all the photos the film can load. It's a one-click process with no settings featured. I really like this photo because it was taken in my apartment that was, fun fact, built in 1984, and it also has an interesting exposure quality.
This post is captioned, "Can't go wrong with a leather jacket," which definitely deems true for someone that may have identified as punk in the 1980s. They really appreciated a leather jacket, especially ones that are longer like the one you see in this picture. Pair this jacket with a gray, black, and white long sleeve, black skirt, tights, sterling silver jewelry, and platform Doc Martens. So this one's captioned, "Mom's not gonna like this one," and I say that because fishnets in particular were very frowned upon from parents of teenagers in the 1980s as they really stray away from the conservative outlook on fashion. In addition to that, I'm wearing a shorter leather jacket, a double punch hole belt, plaid, and some fake Doc Martens, but I'm also making sure to include not only black, but the dark burgundy color that I'm going to be mentioning a few times in my fashion post, because it was very popular. So I think that this outfit is the most accurate in representing the 1980s punk movement, as I'm wearing a Ramones t-shirt as well as vintage Levi jeans. And in addition to that, I'm wearing fishnets under my pants and also a double punched belt. After doing a lot of research, I narrowed down 3 staple items in the 80s punk fashion, this being the chunky denim jacket, the long leather jacket, and also shorter leather jackets with a hooked-in neckline. And also, this color was very, very popular during the time. This one is captioned, "Which ones would survive the mosh pits?" So I put out an array of shoes that I thought someone might wear as footwear during the 1980s punk movement. And first we have the chunky black Doc Martens, the also platform fake Doc Martens that are a dark burgundy color, which was a really popular color during the time, as I'd mentioned before, the all-star black Converse, and also regular original Doc Marten boots. And I also paired the guitar with them for aesthetic purposes.
I decided to include a video of a live performance in the 1980s to show what a concert looked like for the punks during that time. The song is called Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones, which served as an anthem for teen punkers. When analyzing the lyrics, I noticed that there was truth of expression woven into their music. For example, Blitzkrieg Bop includes lyrics that state, quote, "The kids are losing their minds," end quote, and "They're all revved up and ready to go," end quote. This post is a tribute to the 70s punk legend Sid Vicious. He was a vocalist for a very popular band called the Sex Pistols until he unfortunately died due to a drug overdose in 1979. While transitioning back into the 1980s, fans were still grieving over the artist, and I imagine if they had an Instagram back then, they would be remembering him through sharing posts such as this one.
I picked this image because the black and white editing alongside the other distorted post-edit features. Also, during the 1980s, punks had a mission to get President Ronald Reagan out of office as they felt he didn't represent the political beliefs of what was a part of the punk movement. It was very important to stand up and get involved politically, as well as attempt to ultimately overthrow conservatism.